In this video, I'm going to run through the final assembly of the Switchblade. That is the installation of control horns, the launch peg, if you're using it for discus launch, and if you've not ordered the removable winglet, I will also show you how to permanently bond the winglet to the wing. So let's start off with the control horns. Here you'll see is two different sizes. One is taller than the other. The taller one goes towards for the Elevons in this orientation with a sharp point facing rearwards, and the short one is for the flaps. So we'll start with the flaps. So now if you've ordered the Switchblade with servos, I would have already pre-bent the wire in the correct location for this control horn, based on the total movement of the servo. So for a flap, you want the flap to also have some upward movement all the way to where it stops here. That's for inverted flight and also for better pitch control. And obviously you want also maximum downwards deflection. So your flap servo, for this position up, it will be retracting all the way inwards. And what I do is I first put it in a neutral position here, so it's easy to install the control horn. You slot it in place, then you run the servo all the way inside, retracting in, and you pop it out maybe 1 or 2 mils, just to give yourself a little room to play with. And the reference for the height of the control horn is, you'll see here, it wants to pop out the bottom of the skin, so it's normally flush with the tape here as it wants to pop out, and also with the skin. That's the correct reference. So once you're happy with that, you take some 5-minute epoxy, you dab it onto the control horn in that location, you fill up that slot, put some 5-minute epoxy, slot it in place, clean up around, and tape it in position here, and let that set. And that's it. That will be for the flap. And for the Elevon, it's the same principle, except the neutral position, the reference point will be neutral here. That's why I've put some tape just to keep it in position, so that when you glue the control horn in place, and if you set up your servo so that it's in the neutral position, that would be 0 here, and you glue it in place, it will be dead center. It will give you a maximum range up and down for your Elevons. And now moving on to the launch peg. If you've ordered a right-handed launch peg, which will be fitting on the left wing, it looks like this, so that the curvature grips on your fingers like that, and you've got your sweep back with the airflow. So this is the natural position of it. There's already a slot will be cut for you on the hard point here, and you just pop it in place. So what you want is to have a good feeling of where the position of the peg should be, because it can change angles and so forth. So find something that's naturally comfortable for you, so that the top and bottom protrude the same amount. If that feels good, you then release. Do that again. There we go. And then you run some cyno. You can use some thick cyno and activator spray. And over here it's got a hard point all around, so it's very safe to use cyno. You put a nice bead along here, the top and bottom. Use the spray, and then that's it. It'll be very strong like that because it's mechanically attached to the wing now, without the need of glue really. The glue is just to stop it from wiggling around. And then coming to the winglet, if you're going to permanently bond the winglet, this part slots into this slot here, and you'll notice that if you've got side forces in this direction, there's a lot of strength here, so there's no issue here. But here the material is a little bit more flexible. So in order to prevent the glue from peeling off, there's a little slot here with a tab that fits in here. So that tab slots in place, and your wing, actually if you look at it from upside down, what will happen is that little tab will now transfer the loads between this piece of material and that material, so that there's absolutely no flex there, and all the loads are taken up by the winglet and transferred into the wing. So what you would do is, once you're happy with the position of the winglet, you want it to be slightly, you know, vertical, so toes in slightly, the tips go in slightly. So you don't want it to be exactly perpendicular with the wing, because the wing has got anhedral, so it'll be flying not like this, a little bit down. So you want the winglet to be vertical in its flight path, so that will mean a little bit of towing. It'll look something like that. So once you're happy with the angles, you can just tack it with some Sino, just to make sure everything's 100%. You can flex it and then tack it some more until you're 100% happy. Then when you're happy, you just run a bead of Sino along the edges here, top and bottom, and activate a spray. And you make sure that the Sino runs underneath these tabs here as well. Take some runny Sino, and there you go. It'll be very strong. So I've demonstrated using one wing, but the best way to do it is to first, if your wing is not dismantleable in the center and you're using the pod to join it, you'd rather put the pod on first than before putting the control horns. So that way, when the wing is upside down, the control horn and also the launch peg is not in the way of the model to set the correct anhedral. So have a look at the instruction manual. It explains that when the glider is upside down, you don't want any of these parts here sticking onto the workbench and so forth to set the correct anhedral, because it's easier to set when the glider is upside down. So you've glued the pod on. The pod skins are now joining the two wings together. Then you move on to the control horns and so forth. And there you go.